Welcome everyone to this Force Friday. We are going to stay in the realm of film for another week. Just really enjoying studying movies. And today I think what we want to try to share with you is how do you find the best moments in film to be able to basically create your own poses from. I'm going to bring in a little bit of my former animation experience to help here. We'll see if these poses are awesome the way they are again, or if we need to plus them or not, but how do you discover them in the first place? And I think, like I said, I want to try to focus a little bit on that today and talk about animation. So with that, let's say hello to the guys. How you doing, Swenley?
Good. Excited for another awesome movie study live stream. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know we should just turn this into like, let's just study the movies, you know? We could do this all day long. Just leave the camera on and just bring in one film after another. You know, it's so much fun. And how are you doing, Mrityunjay?
Hey guys, yeah, really good. Will be really awesome. I am behind the camera this time, so
He's got his little headshot.
Yep, I'm buying a new camera, but it's on the way. So
all right, well, I look forward to seeing your wonderful face once again.
yeah. I look at he looks very different today.
Yes, Swenley's got a new camera. I'm on a new camera today. Lots of new equipment going on. So
right.
All right. In fact, I'll try to remember that I'm supposed to look here versus my other old camera. So let's get to it, right? I have some fun stuff here I thought I would start with. Let's not forget, of course, at the highest level that we're here to teach about force. So keeping that in mind, again, anything that we're doing here can also be found at drawingforce.com. You know, if you want to learn from Swenley, Mrityunjay, or I, we all do mentorship there. There's tons of videos there. There's different tiers of membership with feedback or not feedback. So please come and check us out over there. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, get your friends over here and have them hit the subscribe button. And if you want to make sure you stay notified, hit the bell. And let's go off to the movies, right? So I basically looked at Thor Ragnarok, which is probably one of my favorite Marvel films. And this scene here where they have the song in the background, which I didn't intend on talking about, so now I'm blanking on it. But I love this music. I remember I used to read the Thor comics as a kid, especially the Walt Simonson period, which was around, I think, 300 or so. Like the whole Beta Ray Bill story. Those of you that are geeks like myself will know what I'm talking about. And I'm really curious to see actually if they'll ever bring that segment of time from the comics into these movies or not. But anyway, this music is, I think it's called the Immigrant Song, right? I always pictured listening to this because it sounds like they're talking about like Valhalla and, you know, these gods, right? And Asgard, this whole like Norse mythology. So I brought this movie clip right here because to me, this is such an awesome abstract of force, right? Let's forget about posing just for a second. And the idea of, you know, this fire sword, this guy's name is Surtur, S-U-R-T-U-R. And here's Thor. And you have all of this directional force like smashing into this shield, right? And it's basically getting, well, not shield, it's his hammer, right? Spinning, that's making the shield. But spinning, that's like decimating, you know, the fire and protecting him behind it, right? So thinking about like directional forces, applied forces, you know, like how much energy is flying through this. I love this close up with all this sort of hot noise like flying around him, right? It's really cool. And here you really get this very clear example of, you know, you can see it's pushing him too, right? Which is really, really, just really cool. I love when films have the ability to bring physics into them again and how it's done really well. I think in one of the prior videos, we may have even talked about how a lot of the action scenes are done with cables, right, or wires, and it's really hard to get the right trajectories on jumps or somebody getting knocked over or thrown in the air. It works a lot better when somebody's like actually jumping off of like a trampoline, like a mini trampoline, because it literally is a jump, right? And then the trajectory is more accurate. So those end up feeling more real. But this scene here, like I said, I just love the physics of it, you know? So, and we could take a look at this. It's a little, one thing that I noticed, especially in the current live action films, is one of the hardest parts of getting a good pose out of them is that if there's a lot of fast action, they're very blurry, right? There's a lot of motion blur that's done in post with visual effects to make things feel like they're moving really fast, right? So that gets a little tricky. And here there's just so much visual effect with the fire on the spinning hammer that it's challenging to like pull something out of it, right? But let's take a quick shot at it. This isn't yet even me talking about how to get the best posing. What I would do here is I would just keep scrubbing this until I could see his body, I think, in its clearest. So that's not bad right there, right? I can see most of his figure there.
I think you have to share your screen, Mike.
All right. Oh, thank you. You're just talking, I'm just listening to my face. So here's what I'm talking about. Sorry about that, guys. Here he is getting pushed, right? So he's getting pushed by this fire. This is spinning, right? You've got all this spinning going on. This is this is all of the applied force that I was talking about, right? Here, let's get this over here. So all this energy is coming in like this, and it's getting, pushed around the sides, basically. And it's coming around the front too, which is why he's a little ghosted out. And the challenging part, as I was saying earlier, in finding this is, finding a shot where it's clear. So you can see the lighting got brighter in here, right? So it's like, okay, I can start seeing, him here, right? So I want to try and, take from this as much as I possibly can, right? I like the pushing. So those of you that know us from the website, or you've already, learned from us at drawingforce.com, you'll know that part of the curriculum is writing, right? So I would say I really want him like pushing against this outside force. So abstractly, I want this, right? This is the shield that he's making and how his body is pushing up against that, right? So this is super, super abstract thinking, right? It's like, here's his leg, here's his other leg, right? And you'll notice, even though it's abstract, I can start drawing his body relative to how I perceive these abstractions, right? It's like, here's his shoulder, his arm, his hands here, right? It's attached to the spinning of Michelinor, right? Which is his hammer, right? And his head hanging out back here, and he's like pushing forward with it, right? So here's like my abstract, and, it's drawing force, and out of that starts to come a body, right? It's like, well, I could start getting his thigh in there, his calf, his boot, right? Get his feet in here. You can see like he's getting pulled, or pushed, I should say, pushed backwards, right? Start getting the shaping going on in here. All right. And you can see that he starts to appear, right? And it's all just come from the abstract of the forces themselves, right? So I see him pushing like that. Notice his leg is getting a little straighter and a little straighter as he's going through the scene. He's pushing harder and harder against it. It's like he's gone from this to this now, right? Like this has become almost 90 degrees at the top, like this to the hip, and his leg is going like this. And you'll notice the other one is getting further and further behind him, right? He's pushing harder and harder. I haven't seen the behind the scenes on this. I'm not sure how they did this, but it is interesting that it really does feel like the actor is pushing against something, If God forbid I ever directed something like this, to me, I would always be trying to figure out how am I going to help the actor give the performance, not only of the acting and the persona and the character, but the physical performance relative to what that thing should really look like. And you need this actor to push against something, right? We really need him to push against something for his muscles to flex and for his body to work the way that it needs to work, right? So the abstract here is, I went like this. This is kind of the line I'm pushing against with this. And here you can see he's way more horizontal, right? We've brought this diagonal from here to here to push against the shield, right? This shield made by the spinning hammer, right? Let's see where else this goes. I think it stops after that moment. Yeah, so you can see him pushing, right? Let's get rid of this for a second. Yeah, and then he finally just breaks through it, right? He says, heck with the shield. He just gets out of it and past it, and then finally confronts Surtur, right? Anyway, I brought this in as a start because I want you to see the general overarching abstraction of force used in the movies, right? That in itself is really cool, and I'm really aware of that when I'm watching films, of course, to go, wow, this is a very forceful moment going on here. I love this. I love this. I love the actor and how he's like trying to push against this, right? And how that activity is happening, right? It's super, super cool. So just seeing the world of film through the idea of force itself and its physics, okay? All right, as usual, if you have any questions or comments, please put them into the chat. And while each one of us is up and doing our portion, the other instructors will be there to help answer. So let's see. So the next piece I brought in, and this starts going into the animation part that I wanted to talk to you guys about, is in animating, right? So in animating, some of you may know this, some of you may not. There's something called the keys, right? The keys to a pose. So I always think of the simplest example for this is like if somebody threw a punch, right? Like you'd have a character like this and his arm is cocked back, right? So this would be a key. Let's just call it key 1, right? And the second key would be the far end of this, right? So it would be like here, right? So this person went like this and then threw the punch like that. Those are the 2 keys. If the keys are far enough in an action, then you can kind of create a bridge in the middle of that. That's called a breakdown, right? So the breakdown immediately starts to determine timing, right? So for instance, if I had a key here, let me zoom in on my little scratch notes here, right? So if I had a key here and I had a key here, and remember in animation, this represents time, right? This is time. Could be 1 second, 5 seconds, could be an hour, right? But this represents time, this distance. If I put the breakdown here, then what we're really saying is, for the most part, on average, the timing between section 1 and section 2 is about the same, right? If I push that breakdown over here, right, then we're shortening up, we're squeezing in more lines here, and we're lengthening this this distance, right? So typically things are going to change in their timing from one side to the other. You're kind of like squeezing in on one and opening up on the other. And the thing to recognize in animation is the more distance you have between 2 points, the faster something is going to move, right? So the breakdown, like I said, the breakdown is only really needed if this action gets really far. Sometimes you don't have a breakdown and it's just done with the in-betweens themselves, right? And you just have something that looks like this, basically, right? So the bouncing ball, right? Let's go to the bouncing ball really quick. So when you're animating a bouncing ball, you learn a lot of different overarching tools from animation. So you learn to respect volume, right? It's like, hey, this is the shape of the ball. If I'm going to have the ball stretch, I can't do a giant ball like this stretching because that's a much bigger volume than the ball I started with, right? If this ball was making its way to the ground. So when you stretch stuff, you want to think of, or squash and stretch. I'm sure most of you heard those terms. You want to think about what that volume is of that ball, right? So here you typically have a contact drawing, and then after that, the ball compresses, right? So it'll squash like this. So lots of stuff's happening here, right? It's the volume of the ball. You have stretching, right? So we have stretch over here. Over here, we have squashing, right? Which are very important concepts in animation. We also have this trajectory, right? So I have this path, and that's very important too. And believe it or not, you can take something like the Hulk in the middle of a fight scene in Thor Ragnarok and apply these same ideas, right? And you can see that. You'll notice as we look at this next scene that this animator understands the bouncing ball, right? There's squash and stretch really going on. There's the apex of where the ball hits excuse me, where the ball hits and where it drops down. You know, where does it slow up at the top, you know, as it then starts to make its way on the downslope of the bounce, or going up in the air, I should say. All that stuff's incorporated in here, right? And yet you have it as a body with arms and legs and armor, right? All the complication, all the stuff that gets added to it. And then you get like overlapping actions and drag and all this other stuff that comes in with physics, right? So let's just take a look at the video, right? I'm gonna scrub through this with you guys. So he just got hit, right? Thor hits him right there. He goes up in the air. Zoom out a little so you guys can see the whole thing. He's going up in the air. He hits his apex and then comes down and bounces, right? And there's a little hit there. Boom, I cut out right there, right? So here's the arc, right? Very nice and clean arc, done in CG. So this animator really took his time getting that average in there, right? Like if I were to do this, the first thing I would do before I do the spin, the arms, the legs, is just get this blob of Hulk's body to go across that trajectory, right? Now that means the keys here, right? One key would be right at the start where he's getting hit. Another one might be him just like hitting the ground, right? And if I had a breakdown, if I felt like I needed one, it would be up near the top. It'd probably be right around here somewhere, right? So that's what I would look for in this, right? I'm trying to find this motion, right? And again, it's all, you know, it's all stuff you learn even from 2D animation, like how to do this, right? How to get from one place to another. You know, we could basically track, you know, we can track the bouncing ball, right? Let's see. Let me grab blue here. You know, so I have him, he's going up like this. All right. He goes up. He starts to make his way down. Right to here. So there's his arc, right? He's on this kind of arc, right? He's going up, he's coming down. And at the apex, he's like right here. It's kind of cool because there's a rotation. You can see how his body turns to expose himself right here, right? Right here is like the turning edge of the rib cage, let's say, right? And you can see that that rotation allows him to land face first and chest first into the ground, right? So he goes from his back facing us and he goes through a spin in here as well, which is really cool that the animator added that to this, right? Which didn't have to be done, but he added, you know, he added the spin probably due to how the Hulk hit him, I mean, how Thor hit him, right? And gets this nice rotation happening out of it, right? So pose wise, I guess if I were to draw this, right? Let's see, I want to try to get the clarity. If I wanted to, I think I would try to clarify this breakdown a little bit. I like this pose of him in the air, right? And I like that he's trying to drag the leg and all, but I think what I would do is probably clarify this back leg like out here more, maybe bring this one forward a little bit more, right? And the reason I'm doing that is I'm trying to create a little bit more negative space here in between the legs, right? Like so. Here's the costuming. He has his head over here. Maybe the arm wouldn't be blocking the head at this point, right? Maybe we have the arm like out here still, right? Like so we could see his head a little bit better, right? Let's see. And then it looks like his other arm is already like coming out, like out of the shot, like over here, basically. So I'm just sketching out like his body and trying to get a clear silhouette, right? The goal here is to see if I can get his arms and legs, you know, at a key moment, which is the apex of this, right? To just bring us a little bit more clear silhouette, clear shape. This is all the armor in the front, right? Get his head maybe in here like so. Let's knock this back and see. Right. So my main purpose of showing you this clip is to understand the beginning and end of an action, right? And by understanding keys, that typically will also help you find great posing, right? And sometimes it's the breakdown, right? Okay, I have one other clip, and this one I'll draw more into. Right, so this one's the longer one that I have. It's still in the fight scene. All right, so what have we got going on? bouncing ball, basically, right? Because you'll notice that the Hulk is squashed and then he stretches, right? So squash and stretch, you can literally see how he, he gets pulled, lengthwise like this, right? So he's up in the air, right? Hits an apex again, comes down towards us. Now, interesting thing to be aware of here, the simplest way for you to look at a bouncing ball is in profile, right? Because you could see the silhouette of the ball bouncing. This is done in perspective, right? With a lot of perspective, in fact, right? Because, look here, right? We're going from here down to here. And I would say the perspective of this is like this. Here's kind of the plane that the Hulk is going to live on, right? So it's like this. You see, this is like the plane that his jump is going to go through, for example, right? So he's going through that plane, he's living in that plane and like coming towards the Hulk, right? Like, I mean, towards Thor, like this, right? So what gives us a sense of, the fact that he's traveling in space? Well, it's his size, right? Because the silhouetting isn't that great, right? What's helping us here is he's only this big here, right? And he's this big here, right? And he even gets cropped, like half his body is off. So look at the difference in scale, right? Notice the shape of this, right? Remember, he started that small. So half his body, which is almost what we see here, would have only been even this big, right? This is like the top half of his body. Top half of his body here is this big, right? So he's huge, much bigger. And our brain registers that, right? Our brain understands that scale equals depth, right? So they're using that here. And it's more dramatic, right? A solid flat profile isn't as dramatic as having something leap right towards you. So we're kind of feeling, Hulk's movement towards us, right? As Thor is feeling that as well, right? So then he strikes here, they strike here, is another little 1-2. He comes sweeping down on him, right? Ends up smashing his like sword here, right? Bends the thing in half, which is really cool. And then finally he just kicks him, right? Now, I brought this in here because again, this is directional and applied force, right? So directional force that happened here is he kicked him this way and we see the residual of that, right? All this applied force is sitting in here because of that kick, right? And that takes Thor all the way across to the other side of the stadium. And I love this moment because this is kind of how I draw the figure. I think about if there's a directional force coming in and it's going to hit part of the model's body, it's like, boom, right? It hits this side, right? It's like, this could be the pelvis, right? Let's say we're drawing the figure, right? Let's say here's the rib cage and here's the pelvis, right? And I might say, wow, this force is coming down, right? It's like this. And now I want to hit into the hip, boom, right? Smashing in the hip, right? It's coming from one side and then smashes in there. That is, as crazy as it sounds, that's kind of what my head perceives as how I'm like smashing in from one place to another. The explosiveness of this is very exciting, right? That happened all because of, remember, all because of the amount of directional force that the Hulk applied to Thor's body with his foot right here. And you can see he's getting ready, right? So they prep you here. You see the leg is coming up and then that's him extending his leg and then he kicks him all the way over there, right? Okay, so let's talk about posing. Right. So I want you to be aware of just all this animation stuff that's going on here, all this force that's going on, right? No better place to find force in movies than a Marvel fight scene, right? Just lots of energy going on, lots and lots of energy, right? So I like this jump, right? I like the jump a lot. I like him up in the air. There's some cool moments like right here. I'm looking at silhouette, right? It's like Thor in the air. I mean, Hulk in the air right here is pretty cool. All right, so let's take a look at that. Any questions I should be addressing in the chat, guys? No? Swanley, Bertrand, no? Okay, good.
Dark Knight asked, he said, you always talk about pushing the pose. Do you think about stretching and squashing the pose when you push a pose from reference?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would say, yes, I think it's awesome if you have the ability to come in with that too. right? Bring a little bit more of an animator's thought process in. Like, how amazing is that, right? To actually be able to think about the squash and stretch of something. You know, even just the mere fact that you're all here talking to us about force, and we're trying to teach you force. This is very much, you know, an animation perception of drawing the figure, right? Now, I don't mean that only animators should use it. You know, we've had our share of comic book artists, fine artists, hobbyists, storyboard artists, right, of all different disciplines. But the mere fact of just trying to think about force and movement, which is the idea of physics, right, in the drawing, is so darn powerful, right? So darn powerful. Like, I just think if you're not using it, you're really missing out on an opportunity to bring something very special to your own work, right? So yeah, you know, if you can stretch and squash in your drawing to answer your question, yeah, I would say go for it, right? Like, that would be awesome. So here I'm being relatively literal to the, you know, to the pose. You can see the legs and everything are pretty clear. I push this arm out a little bit, right? You know, to that other last statement too, I think it's very rare to find people who are actually drawing with that sense of squash and stretch, you know, and we all kind of artistically grow up looking at models posing, but they're not in the middle of an action. And when you watch reality, you'd be amazed as to what really goes on in those moments that you don't really see. You know, you go slow motion through something and things look crazy, right? Things get really squashed and stretched. I remember years ago, I would watch through some of the Rocky movies and watch the fight scenes. The first thing that's terrible about them is just you recognize that they're like 5 inches from each other's faces when they're throwing punches, right? It's like, oh, he's not hitting him at all. It's like half a foot away. But watching the contortion that the body goes through when it's moving is pretty amazing. You know, we're also hung up on proportion, and yet you really want to bring action into your work. You have a lot of forgiveness. There's a lot of ability to push stuff around, to push and pull, you know, squash and stretch, basically, to get things to be the way you want them to be. You know, to get a feeling across, right? A sense of physics across, instead of worrying about the proportion of it, right? There's plenty of space to work in where you don't have to worry about that. So anyway, here's kind of, you know, like a first stab at this, right? And I'm taking it, you know, I'm scrubbing through this. So I think scrubbing movies is freaking awesome. It's like such a favorite sort of pastime, I would say, of mine, you know, to go through this stuff. And, you know, I could push this, right? I might want to push his rib cage out further, right? And say, I want to do this more with his body, right? Maybe I want to raise the leg up, because raising the leg up will kind of signify for me how he got off the ground more, right? Maybe we drag this one down to really show the leaping of the foot, right? So I want to like stretch that down here. In a way, we are squashing and stretching even here, by the way, because it's the squash of this leg and the stretch of this leg. You see that abstraction, right? So I'm thinking about that. You know, I'm thinking about the compression that I want up here, right? I want compression. I want the stretching here, right? So I'm thinking about the speed of how that all feels, right? In that squash and stretch, right? So it might be something like that. On his head, kind of to the side, which I think is there in the footage too, which is cool. This arm, again, I'm going to try to at least get, like, I like getting at least the elbow cleared. I feel like that gives me at least a clear sense of where the upper arm was versus the lower arm, right? So something like that. And then this clear, you know, let's clear this other arm, right? Running out of space, but you can see, you know, if I darken it in, right, I'm trying to get this, right? Like just a good silhouette. By the way, you know, darkening up the outline is a great way to see what are you dealing with, right? Like, what's my silhouette here, right? Right. So here's just a quick rough, right? So I've pushed this idea of the leaping off the one leg and the pulling up with the other one. This makes me think of basketball too, by the way. Like, if you've ever done a layup, right? where you run up to the net to, try to dunk the ball. Typically what people will do, what basketball players will do is they'll use one of their legs in their run and swing the leg up, right, to get height. I have been proven wrong, and that's not all the time. Some basketball players will go down with both feet and then jump forward. I find when I've done that, that just feels like it stops my momentum. Like I'd rather run, and get one leg up in the air to swing the rest of my body weight, up into the sky towards the basket, right? So here's a couple of sketches, right? We got our first two off of this. Let's maybe see if we can find one more. Let's get this up here. There we go. See what else is going on. So it's a nice strike there. Like just this stuff, I mean, even just seeing the Hulk and all this armor and swinging himself around, like there's just so much cool stuff here. This is cool, right? I like how he's coming around like that, right? Let's see, he's got both his arms in the air, but it's so blurry, right? So I kind of have to go through all of these and see what I could find, right? I like what he looks like down here, right? It's really cool. So maybe I take from this, right? Like I really like that. And then I have to extrapolate some of the other stuff, right? Let's get rid of this. Put another box in here for myself. I like this pose, right? And this kind of stuff I would do sitting in my living room with my sketchbook, right? I usually have it on the TV, so it's bigger. Right. The bigger it is, then the, I was going to say I could see some more info, but sometimes blur is actually worse, when you're going really large, right? The smaller you make the image, sometimes the blur will, it like tightens it up. So sometimes that helps actually. Here, let's see. I'm going to add more, so I have more room here. And if I get the sketching done here, right, let's just say I really like this pose and I'm like, okay, I want, him here, and I'm just roughing stuff in, right? I know he's got some kind of weapon here. I don't know exactly what it looks like, right? Then you can bounce around. I like his helmet. He's got this kind of, Trojan helmet on, right? But I can barely see him, but I like the pose itself, right? See, his back is like this. Then I would probably say, okay, now let me scrub around to some other moment where I could see his costuming. There's his helmet, right? Like it's pretty clear, you see? So I could take that, put that in that perspective and say, okay, now, let me see what I've got. It's got these ridges on it, right? It's like I'm turning his face a little bit more this way, right? It's got thickness to it that's like this. It's very industrial, right? Super, super industrial, right? It's very chunky is another way of thinking about it, right? It's got this front surface. You see what I mean? So
that's, you need to be able to draw, see and draw structure to be able to pull this off. It's not so easy as it looks.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to know how to draw, right? Because I'm not copying. What I'm doing, to Swenley's point, really, is I'm now starting to bounce around with the reference. The reference can come from all over the place, right? And I'm just trying to put a good solid image together that might not even exist in the film that I'm putting together and making, right? It's like, how does the helmet sit on Thor's head? Well, his nose is really small. It's like right here, right? I can draw his angry eyebrows, underneath here. Maybe I have his eye like looking off to the side here, right? I could see how his cheekbones are structured. There's his cheekbone right there, and here's the other edge. Right, get his mouth open in here. Right, like I could start defining this based off of the reference, right? But it doesn't have to be a direct copy of the reference. That's the thing. This isn't today's conversation, but I also love going into films, and I'll usually like caricaturize the actors. Sometimes it's just literally somebody's face. It's not even an action scene. Right now we're doing action, but it could be anything, right? I'm just going to grab whatever I like. So I would continue with this. My point to this whole thing is, I would continue with this. I'd find out what his bracers look like, which are these like armbands, right? Like what's happening there. I think I remember they have some kind of like metal plate on them. I would look at his gloves and his hands and his knuckles and, get a sense of like how all of this basically looks and works, right? Take a look at his anatomy and, what does that look like, right? And start slowly putting this whole thing, together, you see. So I leave you, before I pass this off to Rotunjay, I'd leave you with some animation tactics. Be aware of the beginnings and the ends of like an action, all right? The keys. Sometimes the breakdown is really awesome. Give yourself the freedom to push the pose, right? Think of different parts of the body even squashing and stretching, like we did with the legs, or the pose as a whole is squashing or stretching, right? Like, what does that look like? And referencing, sometimes, especially in these action scenes, it's frustrating in that they're so amazing, but as you can see in what we just looked at, there's a lot of blur, right? Which helps it feel fast and violent and aggressive. But as an artist, it's like, oh my God, I can't see anything that's going on. So you might have to get some of the posing from it and then go back to where the character is more still and keep grabbing the reference and basically like dress the pose, right? Get more information in the stiller moments and dress the action moments with the stuff that you're getting there, right? So a whole bunch of tips and tricks for you guys. Have fun trying this out on your own, and then I'm going to hand it off. It's all yours, Mrityunjay, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm weak. Give me some hour.
Oh, I thought I already gave it to you. You sure? Let's see. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm weak. All right. There you go.
All right, recharging.
I can hear it.
Yeah,
Cranking up your energy.
All right. Yeah, so you can see my whole screen
Yes.
today.
Yep.
All right, great. So okay, guys. So what I'll be doing? Okay, who loves Captain America? So
Everybody.
yeah, everyone. So I got some Captain America for you today, and so Mike mentioned like a lot of tips and tricks. Like about the keys, the breakdowns, and about the motion and everything. And yeah, topped it off with some structure and some like amazing drawing. So I'm gonna animate for you a little bit. We're gonna be talking about like poses and arcs, and I think one of you mentioned arcs as well. So yes, yeah, we're gonna be looking like how to like going through the movie clip and kind of like break it down. And this is a good exercise for like you to do basically. Guys, like animation is what brought me to Force, because obviously Force is about motion, motion and the energy. And yeah, what can be like the more better way to experience it with, more than the animation. So yeah, so here's the first scene. And I'll be animating here that there's a movie, like that's the video clip. So let's have a look at the scene first. So this is not the one. It's also a cool action, by the way. If you just want to try it out, maybe you can do it. See, it's like,
Maybe not.
why not?
Flip? You mean flipping over your head like that?
Oh, you mean in real life? Oh, no. I was just saying in the.
Yeah, I meant in real life.
You'll need a friend.
Yeah, a strong friend that you trust.
Wow, don't try it out, guys. Otherwise. All right, so here we go. So Winter Soldier is like pushing Captain America here, and you see like, okay, so this is the beginning of the action. Okay, let's see, just look at the action, and there we go. This is the scene that we're gonna be analyzing, right? So he's like rolling up. Yeah, kind of like found it accidentally, and this reminds me of like one of the classic leading edge like drawings in the Force book as well. So it is like yeah, it's like a great thing, Now we'll be seeing it in action. So there we go. So first, what he's doing. Let's see, just analyze it very quickly. Or what I can do here, I can just maximize it, just annotate here. Okay, so you see what's happening? Like this is the arc. Now, arc not just in motion, but also like in the body, right? And I'm just gonna be like using the leading edge here. So you see like the arc is going this way. Now this animation would be a little bit tougher just because it's actually happening like in like this foreshortening and overlapping, right? And the mic, what the videos might choose is, they were like mostly profile, and like more 3/4 ones. Anyway, so yeah, look at the arc of the body right there. And then what's happening as we go through, now look at the arc, right? Look at the arc of his body. Now his arc is like this. Hmm. Let's say this one, so now the arc is like this. Okay, I see his butt. And now see what's happening here, that becomes the leading edge, right? Because he's like leading and like he's actually moving into that direction. So this is becoming his like leading edge. Okay, so just like that. And then leading edge would change, right? So wait a second, leading edge would change here. So as it's like going through, now see like the knees, okay, like the knees are now becoming the leading edge now because the body is like start to move that way. Okay, so you see like the body is like now moving this way because he's falling behind, right? So the knees are now like the leading edge. Okay, so in this kind of motion, it usually changes, especially when it's like flipping, and especially when it's like, this kind of rolling and such. The change of leading edge happens. Okay, and you can like see the arc of the body as well. Now, if you just see this in the profile view, so he's just like falling like this, right? He's falling like this. You see like the leading edge. I usually, I'm bringing this up, by the way, if you just want to like kind of simplify anything and you just don't know what to do, just kind of like do a 2D version of it. And 2D version for this motion would be from the profile shot, right? Usually it's like the profile shot, So like just understand this from profile view and you'll like get it. You see like this is the leading edge, is very, very clear. Now he's gonna fall. I'm just gonna make another frame here so you guys don't get confused, right? And you see again, he's going this way, and we see his like whole body just kind of swinging across. So now it's like this, right? So his butt is right here, and his body is like more here, and he's got like his legs right there. You see, it's more like this. Now see what happened. The knee is like becoming leading edge, and now he's just falling in this direction. Okay, there's like a 2D breakdown, and let's do some cool drawings now. Okay, I'm just gonna be making them quicker. I'm not gonna be as clean and masterful as Mike did, So get ready for some messiness. All right. Uh, let's see how it goes. So in the first one, he's just like a simple arc right here, and his body not too strong, I would say, right? So you can push it a little bit, but just because he's like the whole animation is happening in this foreshortening mode, right, from the really front. So pushing means like this body would just go back, and like this would become bigger. So yeah, you can do that. Right now I'm doing it not. So I just focus on the arcs and the animation and such. Okay. Now this is going to be the key, right? So this is going to be the keyframe. And if any of you are like have done animation before, it's like represented with something called a ladder, right? So right, that would be our first key. And then you might seeing stuff like this and this and this, right? Something like that, right? Basically, just like the half thing, right? And obviously this represents the time, just like Mike said. So you can put the breakdown here, can put the breakdown here, or whatever your action calls for. Okay. Okay. Anyway, just I'm gonna be doing it very rough and messy. Okay. So don't blame me. Right here, he's got the arm right there. Right, okay, something like this. Okay, and there we go. That's very, very, very quick. So he's doing this, and now I'm just gonna go for another one. Turn on the onion skinning. All right, so you see how it goes. Okay, so now he's falling. He starts to fall this way. Okay, so I'm just gonna be doing that pose now. And yeah, it's a good way, and it's a good exercise. You really, when we are teaching these leading edge exercises, when it's a very beginning student, so we don't ask them to do this, but I would love to bring, and I bring this, like we bring this in mentorship afterwards, when students are becoming like more comfortable with this. This is like the best way to understand force, I would say. Just like I said, this brought me into force and all the love for it. You see, it's like quick and easy. Sorry, not easy. It's quick though. All right, good exercise. So right there, I'm using shapes and such, by the way, right? And arcs are difficult to see here, right? Again, just because it's happening in this like very foreshortened like mode. But yeah, I would say, when you're done with a little bit like more basics one, I want you to like try this out as well, right? This is going to be like very fun for you. All right, let's go another one. So now it's like this. Let's kind of like, and you look at it again and again, right? And you look at it again and again, you see like what's really happening. Okay, so now that happened. Okay, so now his body's like completely stuck to the ground, and you start to see his rear end a little bit, right? You see like both of those legs, how they're going to space, and then that's coming out like this. Again, very, very quick. And what I also like about is like there's like a lot of overlapping and foreshortening. I know Mike talked about silhouette a little bit. Yeah. So in this one, you can say that, oh, look at that silhouette right there. At this stage, I mean, you can start like worry about the silhouette and say, okay, yes, let's get those silhouettes right. But it's not 100% of the time, guys. You just need to remember. So right now, yeah, focus as much as you can about the silhouette. But you're not gonna get 100% of the time like all correct. Okay, right there. Okay, let's do another shot. Let's make it here. Okay, so now his body is like turning this way. You see how awesome that arc is. I love this one. So his the rear end is on this angle right here. Okay, any questions, guys?
No, it's all good.
Okay. Yeah. You basically, this is also like a good reference place, because people all ask all the time, oh, where I get the cool poses, and such, just grab a video. You're gonna be grabbing like thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of photographs in this kind of like actions. All right, now his arm is going back, like this is going back. It's a little weird right here, so maybe I'll try like remove that for now. And his head is like completely hidden here. Okay, go for this again. Yeah, so see, like I'm not actually, again, I'm not drawing bodies here. I'm not drawing the body here. I'm just like drawing the energy, that's flowing in there. Okay, his body's gonna start to like come out this way. Like he's raising his body from here, you see? This is an awesome pose, really. Okay, the body's gonna start to go this way. Now it's a little bit difficult also, because yeah, this one is a tough one to pull off, the thing is, it's also clothes, right? So I mean, you don't want to see like naked superheroes. But and you won't be seeing anytime soon, I guess. But the thing is, yeah, it's a little bit tough as well because they're all covered, and it's tough to see the function of the body. I see like how this arc is working. I am actually going for this, so see the knees right there. Then in the second one, it comes right there. So see that arc is forming now. And then another one, see again, that arc is continuing down to here. Okay. So this is what I'm what I have in mind right now. Okay. There's like a lot of things for the animation. I'm not a pro animator by any means, but I love doing it at all. Okay, let's do another shot here really quick. Let's just continue with this. Now he's doing that, right? He's like raising up his body. See right there. And again, it's a good idea to just like check on it again and again. And right now I'm doing it like very fast, by the way. And I'm not like actually going for the timing of this at all. And yeah, like if you're just doing it for the exercise purpose, you don't need to like see the timing as much, and you can adjust it later, right? If you're just like practicing it out, just like doing it for yourself and seeing thing to like just practice out. Yeah. Obviously, if you're like doing it for somebody else, yeah, if you're like doing it for like a professional work, obviously that needs to be taken without timing, right? That is very, very important.
Hey,
You can-
Matunje, let's talk about timing. Let's watch time.
oh yes, no. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. All right, so let's just do it till here, okay? I just want to give Squinty some time. Okay, let's just play it and see how it works, okay? So there we go, right? Yeah, some if there was like more time, I was like about to like do the coloring and everything, like for the direction and applied forces, right? But there we go. So it's just about so I use like two main stuff here, just like leading edges and some like arcs and stuff. And it should be good to go about some basic animation. Okay. All right, guys, try this exercise out and let's watch Swinley rock.
That was fantastic, Matunje.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, really fast. Disney should hire you.
Exactly. I'm a Disney animator.
All right, let's see. So let's go to Clip Studio and open the video here. Right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I opened it on YouTube just because it's fast and easy to go through the frames. So someone asked in the chat, I think it was Kevin, about process, for going about this. And that's what I want to talk about and like recapping what Mike and Matunje showed you guys. So first of all, you want to choose the movie, of course, and then pick an action sequence in the movie. Like I also have Captain America, the Winter Soldier, as you can see. I have a scene at the very beginning where he's fighting against Batroc. So first of all, you want to pick a portion of the action that you want to study. So here I picked just when Batroc is like leaping in the air and punching into Cap's shields. So after that, once you have the sequence, you want to pick the keyframes like Mike explains at the very beginning. So in this case, the keys would be the start and ends of the action. So I started here, as you can see, in Clip Studio on the side. And then I ended right here when he's landing the punch and he's landing on the floor. So this is my last key. This is my first key. So if we go over it here, let's see. So this is key number 1. This is key number 2, where he ends. I also have the keys. And then right in the middle, like Mike also showed, we have a breakdown. So that's like right here. So that's my breakdown here. So I have the key, first key, breakdown, the last key. And then I just added 2 in-betweens to like smoothen out the action. So I have this one, I have the breakdown, another in-between, and we have the key. So nice and simple. You can keep the sketches, the drawings pretty loose, as Mitrunde showed you. You don't want to, because your goal is to get through the whole action sequence and not create beautiful drawings. So just keep it fast and loose. And also, if we compare what I have here with the original one, so let's go back. So I started like right here when he's jumping. So I applied what we discussed over the past 2 streams about the criteria for good and clear posing. Now, first of all, he's very straight here. So I angled his body a little bit more. Like diagonal gives you a more dramatic angle. I also angled his leg with his body. So here is a bit more straight. I made it a bit more diagonal. This leg was already good. Like it's clear in the silhouette. You have a clear negative shape, so it reads clearly. I also tilted his head. Now again, instead of his head being perfectly vertical. I place it at an angle, again, more dramatic. And I brought out this punching arm, especially since this is what the action is about, him punching Cap's shields. I wanted to bring that punch out of the silhouette, so we have a nice and clear reads from the very beginning. Let's see. So let's go to the next one. I have to go forward. So again, so notice here in the original, in the film, the punch is still hidden, and I want to bring it out in the open, so it's clear what's going on. What more did I change? I speak about squash and stretch. I like bent and squashed his leg a bit more. You can see like it's expanding on these sides, and it's contracting like this. So I'm thinking about the bouncing ball, as Mike spoke about, like when he's bending his leg, it's contracting and like bulking up more. Let's go to the next frame. Let's see. Let's go over here. So same here, the punch is still hidden. So I think actually it's this one. Now, so here you can start seeing his fist, but again, it's very hidden, and I wanted it to be crystal clear in my drawing. Now, so you always want to aim for clarity. Go to the next one. I think that's around here. Again, here you just see like this little stump sticking out. So I made sure that in my drawing, this reads clearly in silhouette. Now, last but not least, we have the part when he lands the punch. So let's see, Cap. Let's go back over here. So I changed Cap's pose slightly. So I give him more of like a anticipation pose, meaning that he's anticipating the punch coming, so he's making himself ready to block. And again, I bent his torso. We spoke about that. Like it's pretty straight in the original. It's a straight line. I created an arc, making it more dynamic and fluid. I also created more negative space between the legs, so the pose reads clearly in silhouette. Same for the shield. I brought it out in the open. We have negative space here, so it reads much more clearly. So here, notice that his torso goes from a C to an S curve. We spoke about that in another stream. So this all anticipating. And then finally, he blocks that punch. So that's the motion. So again, this is just reference, and you want your drawing to always be clearer than the reference. So that's where the rules for good posing that we discuss come into play. And last but not least, I also added the leading edges. Let's see. So this is the leading edge for Cap, and this is the leading edge for Batroc. And if we go through it, you can see that, of course, he's coming forwards, so the direction of his body is consistent with Cap. He's bending over first, and then he goes back, so the leading edge changes for him. Now, if we play it through, let's see if that plays out smoothly in here. Yeah, pretty good. So this is a good process that you can use for studying action scenes from movies. And if you do it, we encourage you guys to do it. Post it on Instagram if you're there. Feel free to tag us. We would like to see your studies, your analysis of movie action scenes and how you use the tools that we spoke about to improve the poses. All right on time. Hopefully this was inspiring and useful for you guys. I'm giving it over to Mike.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed our session of going to the movies once more. all the animators' tricks that we shared with you in an effort to help you draw from those movies better. You know, obviously they're very inspiring to all of us. There's just so much reference there. I think that I want to leave you with, you know, when we think about finding reference, films have gone through, films have gone through many artists and art directors and production designers to get to a place where all that reference comes together to share the story that it does with you. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's been put in there. And they're just a massive library of information. It's like you want to do a World War II scene, then go watch some World War II films, and you've got costuming from all different angles that you can see, and tanks and jeeps and architecture and different countries and what they look like at that time and what people dressed like in those time periods, right? So I guess, like I said, what I'm leaving you here with is recognize the visual library at your disposal within the world of cinema, right? Within the world of film, and how rich and exciting that is to draw from, right? And hopefully you leave today with some notes from animation and how to use those tricks to help you get really cool poses and how to get some really inspiring drawings for yourself, right? So that's it. We will see you guys next week. Go watch some awesome movies, get out your sketchbook and go and draw. And we'll see you in 7 days. Take care, everyone. We'll see you guys. So
Bye, guys.
MJ as well. We'll see
You
you.
guys.
Yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
All right.